The blue-skinned alien's forehands shook as he worked at the communication console. Elder Zix 477 had lived for 300 years, but he had never felt fear like this before. Outside the underground bunker, explosions shook the ground. The Vorthak ships were getting closer to the capital city. "Sir, the defense fleet is gone," reported a younger Zalari officer. Her voice cracked with terror. "The last ship went down 10 minutes ago. They're targeting the evacuation centers now." Zix 477 closed his large black eyes and tried to think. The Zalari were a peaceful race. They had spent thousands of years studying art, science, and philosophy. They had no real weapons, no military experience. When the Vorthak Empire came to their system, demanding surrender, the Zalari thought they could negotiate. They were wrong. The Vorthak didn't want to talk. They wanted slaves, resources, and territory.
Any species that refused to submit was destroyed completely.
43 civilizations had already fallen to their massive war fleets. The Zalari were about to become number 44. "How long do we have?" Zix 477 asked. "Maybe 6 hours before they breach the bunker," the officer replied. "The shield generators are failing." Zix 477 nodded slowly. There was only one chance left. The emergency protocol that the Galactic Council had created decades ago. A desperate message to anyone who might listen. Most civilized species were too far away to help, or too weak to fight the Vorthak. But maybe, just maybe, someone would answer. "Activate the deep space transmitter," he ordered. "Send the distress call on all frequencies." The officer's tentacles moved quickly over the controls. "Ready, sir." Zix 477 took a deep breath and began to speak into the communicator. His words would travel across the galaxy at faster than light speed, reaching hundreds of star systems. "This is Elder Zix 477 of the Zalari Confederation. Our system is under attack by the Vorthak Empire. We are a peaceful people with no military capability. Our defense fleet has been destroyed. Our worlds are being bombarded. We estimate complete extinction within 12 hours. He paused as another explosion rocked the bunker. Dust fell from the ceiling. "We send this message to any civilized species capable of faster than light travel. Please respond if you can help us. We are dying. We will share all our scientific knowledge, all our cultural treasures, everything we have, in exchange for aid, please. Someone, anyone." Zix 477 transmitted their exact coordinates and closed the channel. Now all they could do was wait and hope. 27 light-years away on a small blue planet called Earth, Captain Jack Murphy was working the night shift at the Deep Space Monitoring Facility in Nevada. The underground base was hidden in the desert, far from any city. Very few people knew it existed. Jack was drinking his 4th cup of coffee when the computer started beeping. He looked at the screen and saw something that made him sit up straight. An alien transmission was coming through the quantum receivers, equipment that officially didn't exist. "Holy shit," Jack whispered, then quickly looked around to make sure his supervisor wasn't nearby. He put on his headphones and listened to the message. The alien's voice was desperate, frightened. Jack could hear explosions in the background. This wasn't a joke or a test. This was real. Jack's hands moved quickly over the controls, recording everything and running the signal through the translation software. The computer worked for several minutes, comparing the alien language to the databases that Earth had been quietly building for years. When the translation appeared on his screen, Jack felt his blood run cold. A peaceful alien civilization was being wiped out by something called the Vorthak Empire. They were begging for help from anyone who could travel faster than light. Jack grabbed his secure phone and dialed a number that connected him directly to NORAD headquarters in Colorado. The phone rang twice before a woman answered. "General Carter's office." "This is Deep Space Station 7, Jack said, using his code name. "I need to speak to the General immediately. Priority Alpha. Hold, please." 30 seconds later, General Lisa Carter was on the line. She was a tough woman who had been in charge of Earth's secret space defense program for 8 years. "What do you have, Captain?" "Ma'am, we just received a distress signal from an alien civilization. They're under attack and asking for help. The transmission is authentic. I've verified the quantum signatures." There was silence on the other end of the line. Then General Carter spoke again, her voice calm and professional. "Send me everything immediately. I'm calling an emergency meeting with the President." "Yes, ma'am." "General, there's something else. According to our intelligence files, this Vorthak Empire has destroyed over 40 other civilizations. They're not just attacking one planet. They're conquering entire star systems." "Understood. Get me a full analysis within the hour. The line went dead. Jack turned back to his console and began preparing the most important report of his life. 2 hours later, President William Hayes sat in the secure conference room beneath the White House. Around the table were the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the head of the CIA, and several other people whose names didn't appear on any official government list. General Carter stood at the front of the room, pointing to a holographic display that showed the galaxy. "The Zalari system is here," she said, indicating a point of light. "According to their message, they have maybe 10 hours before complete extinction. The attacking force is part of something called the Vorthak Empire, which our analysis suggests is the most aggressive military power in this part of the galaxy." Admiral Kate Rodriguez, commander of Earth's secret space fleet, spoke up. "What's our response capability?" "We have 12 ships ready for immediate deployment," General Carter replied. "The new jump drives can get us there in less than 6 hours. The question is whether we reveal ourselves." President Hayes leaned forward. "General, what's your assessment of the threat level?" "Sir, if this Vorthak Empire is as powerful as the intelligence suggests, they'll eventually reach our part of the galaxy. Better to face them now on our terms than wait for them to come to us." The president looked around the table. Every face showed the same determination. "How do we respond to the aliens' message?" General Carter smiled grimly. "Something simple, sir. Something that lets them know help is coming." President Hayes nodded. "Do it." Back on the Zalari homeworld, Elder Zix 477 was helping load the last refugees into underground shelters when his communicator beeped. A response had come in. With shaking hands, he activated the translator. The message was short and in a language the computer identified as originating from a system called Sol 3. "Help is coming. Hold your position. Earth." Zix 477 stared at the words. "Earth?" He checked their databases. Sol 3 was listed as a primitive world whose inhabitants had barely achieved nuclear technology. They couldn't possibly have faster-than-light travel. But as he looked up at the sky, where Vorthak ships were beginning their final assault, Elder Zix 477 decided that even false hope was better than no hope at all. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the Zalari planet burn through the massive viewing screen. The Vorthak commander was 12 feet tall, covered in black scales, and had been conquering worlds for over 50 years. To him, this was just another day at work. "Status report," he growled in his deep voice. "Sir, the planetary defenses are completely destroyed," reported his second-in-command. "The population centers are under bombardment. We estimate complete surrender within 4 hours." Kethvar nodded with satisfaction. The Zalari had put up less of a fight than most species. Their ships were weak, their weapons pathetic. Like most peaceful civilizations, they had spent too much time on art and science and not enough on military preparation. "Any response to our surrender demands?" "No, sir. They're still broadcasting emergency signals, but no government response." "Let them scream into the void," Kethvar said with amusement. "No one will come to help them. No one ever does." The Vorthak Empire had conquered 43 star systems using the same simple strategy: overwhelming force and terror. Their dreadnought ships were enormous, each one the size of a small moon and armed with enough weapons to destroy entire planets. When they arrived at a system, most civilizations surrendered immediately, rather than face annihilation. Those that chose to fight never lasted long. Kethvar was reviewing the plans for the next system on his conquest list when his communications officer interrupted him. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission. It appears to be directed at the Zalari." "From whom?" "Unknown, sir. The signal is coming from a system our database lists as Sol 3. According to our records, it's inhabited by a primitive species that hasn't even achieved faster-than-light travel." Kethvar laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Display the message." The words appeared on the screen. "Help is coming. Hold your position." "Earth," the bridge crew erupted in laughter. Several officers had to hold their sides as they wheezed with amusement. "Earth?" Kethvar said, checking the database entry. "These creatures still use chemical rockets. They fight wars with projectile weapons. They haven't even left their own star system." He wiped tears from his eyes. "Apparently the primitives think they can help. Should we respond, sir?" "No, let them come. When they arrive in their primitive ships, we'll destroy them for sport. It will be good practice for the crew." Kethvar dismissed the human message and went back to planning his next conquest. In his experience, species that hadn't developed faster than light travel were completely harmless. Earth was probably sending a few small exploration ships that would take decades to reach the Zolari system. By then, this sector of the galaxy would belong to the Vorthak Empire. He had no way of knowing that Earth's ships were already jumping through space toward him. Meanwhile, in a secret military base hidden on the dark side of Earth's moon, humanity was preparing for war. Admiral Kate Rodriguez stood in the command center, watching as her fleet prepared for immediate departure. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at control stations that looked nothing like Earth's conventional technology. The screen showed impossible equations, and the machinery hummed with energy that bent the laws of physics. "Status report," she ordered. "All ships ready for jump." "Admiral," replied Captain Steve Parker from the UES Retribution. "Jump drives are charged and coordinates are locked in." Rodriguez nodded. The human fleet looked small compared to what they were about to face. Only 12 ships against an entire Vorthak siege fleet. But appearances could be deceiving. These weren't ordinary ships. They had been built in secret over the past 10 years, using technology that Earth had quietly collected from various sources. Some of it came from crashed alien vessels that the government had recovered. Some came from first contact situations that the public never learned about. And some came from Earth's own scientists, who had been pushing the boundaries of physics for decades. Dr. Marcus Lee, the fleet's chief scientist, approached the admiral. He was a thin man with wild hair and eyes that seemed to see things others couldn't. "Admiral, all experimental weapons are online and ready for testing," he reported. "The gravity manipulators, quantum disruptors, and—" He paused dramatically. "The eraser." Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "The eraser is ready?" "As ready as a weapon that removes matter from existence can be. I still recommend using it only as a last resort. We don't fully understand all the implications yet." "Understood. What about our defense systems?" "The phase shift generators are working perfectly. We can become intangible at will, which should make their weapons useless against us. The regenerative armor will repair any damage automatically, and the stealth systems will keep us hidden until we're ready to strike." Rodriguez smiled grimly. The Vorthak Empire had conquered dozens of civilizations because they had never faced an enemy like humanity. They used brute force and conventional tactics. Humans, on the other hand, had spent their entire history finding creative ways to kill each other. Now they would apply that creativity on a galactic scale. "What about the ground forces?" Colonel Amy Brooks stepped forward. She was a compact woman with scars on her face and cybernetic implants behind her ears. "My Marines are ready, Admiral. Full genetic and cybernetic enhancement. Each soldier is equipped with powered armor that can survive in any environment. We have personal shields, quantum weapons, and teleportation devices. How many do you think you'll need to take a Vorthak dreadnought?" Brooks smiled coldly. "Give me 5 Marines, ma'am." "That should be more than enough." The confidence in her voice wasn't arrogance, it was based on years of testing and preparation. Human soldiers had been enhanced far beyond baseline human capabilities. They were faster, stronger, and more durable than any natural creature. Their weapons could punch through any known armor, and their armor could protect them from weapons that could level buildings. Most importantly, they had been trained to think in ways that aliens couldn't predict. "All ships report ready for jump," announced the navigation officer. Rodriguez took her position in the command chair. "This is Admiral Rodriguez to all ships. We're about to make humanity's formal introduction to galactic civilization. Let's make sure they remember us." She paused, thinking about the desperate message from the Zolari. A peaceful species was being slaughtered by bullies who thought might made right. It was exactly the kind of situation that made humans angry, and angry humans were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. "All ships, engage jump drives. Destination, Zolari system. Time to jump 3, 2, 1 to execute." Space twisted around the human fleet as they entered jump space. The ships disappeared from normal reality, traveling faster than light toward a battle that would change the galaxy forever. Back in the Zolari system, Elder Zix 477 was coordinating the evacuation of the last civilian shelters when his assistant rushed up to him. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy readings at the edge of the system. Vorthak reinforcements?" "No, sir. The energy signature is completely unknown. It's not matching any known faster-than-light drive system." Zix 477 looked up at the sky, where the Vorthak ships continued their bombardment. He thought about the simple message from Earth. "Help is coming. Maybe, just maybe, the impossible was about to happen. Space twisted and tore at the edge of the Zalari system as 12 human ships dropped out of jump space. They appeared suddenly without warning, their hulls gleaming silver against the starfield. Compared to the massive Vorthak dreadnoughts, they looked tiny, like mosquitoes facing elephants. Admiral Kethvar was enjoying a meal of roasted Zalari livestock when his sensors officer interrupted him. "Sir, we have multiple contacts dropping out of FTL at the system edge." Kethvar didn't even look up from his food.
Vorthak reinforcements?
"No, sir. Unknown configuration. The ships are small." That got Kethvar's attention. He stood up and walked to the sensor display. 12 contacts showed on the screen, each roughly the size of a Vorthak cruiser. They were holding position at the edge of the system, just sitting there. Are they transmitting anything? "No, sir. Complete radio silence." Kethvar checked the tactical display. His siege fleet contained 53 dreadnoughts and over 200 smaller vessels. Whatever these newcomers were, they were completely outnumbered. Could they be the primitives from Sol 3? His intelligence officer checked the database. "Impossible, sir. According to our records, they don't have faster-than-light capability. It would take them decades to reach this system using conventional drives." "Then who are they?" Before anyone could answer, one of the unknown ships began moving toward the Vorthak fleet. It approached slowly, almost casually, showing no signs of aggressive intent. Kethvar smiled. "They want to negotiate. Probably some minor civilization hoping to curry favor with us." He turned to his weapons officer. "Target the approaching ship. We'll destroy it as an example to the others." "Yes, sir." Weapons locked on target. Fire. The Vorthak flagship unleashed a barrage of plasma bolts that could vaporize a small asteroid. The weapon struck the human ship dead on, creating a brilliant explosion that lit up the darkness of space. When the light faded, the ship was still there, completely undamaged. Kethvar stared at the display in disbelief. "What happened? Did our weapons miss?" "No, sir. Direct hit confirmed. The target should have been destroyed." Fire again. Full spread. This time, multiple Vorthak ships opened fire simultaneously. Dozens of plasma bolts and energy beams struck the human vessel. The explosion was so bright that the bridge crew had to shield their eyes. When the light cleared, the ship was not only undamaged, it had moved closer. "Sir," the sensor officer said in a shaky voice, "our weapons appear to be passing through the target without effect." "That's impossible." The human ship continued its approach, completely ignoring the increasingly desperate Vorthak attacks. When it was within communication range, it finally transmitted a message. "Vorthak vessels, this is Captain Steve Parker of the Earthship Retribution. You have 10 minutes to withdraw from this system. This is your only warning." The bridge crew fell silent. The voice was calm, almost polite, but there was something underneath it that made Kethvar's scales crawl. "Captain Parker," Kethvar replied. "You are addressing Admiral Kethvar of the Vorthak Empire. We have conquered 43 star systems. Our fleet contains over 200 ships. You appear to have 12. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." "Admiral, you seem to misunderstand the situation. This isn't a negotiation. This is a notification. You have 9 minutes and 30 seconds. Kethvar's anger overrode his confusion. How dare these primitives threaten him? "Destroy that ship immediately. Use everything we have." The entire Vorthak siege fleet turned its weapons on the single human vessel. The bombardment was incredible. Enough firepower to destroy a moon. The space around the human ship turned into a hell of exploding energy and superheated plasma. But when the barrage ended, the ship was not only intact, it had somehow multiplied. There were now 2 identical vessels where one had been before. "Sir," whispered the sensor officer, "the target has duplicated itself." "What do you mean, duplicated?" "I mean there are now 2 ships where there was one before." "And, sir, both ships are showing identical energy signatures. I can't tell which one is the original." Captain Steve Parker's voice came through the communication system again, now broadcast from both ships simultaneously. "You have 8 minutes remaining. I suggest you use them wisely." Kethvar was about to order another attack when something impossible happened. The space around his flagship began to change. Stars that had been behind them suddenly appeared in front of them. The planet they had been bombarding was now above them instead of below. "Navigation report," Kethvar shouted. "Sir, our instruments show that we're rotating, but there's no force acting on our ship. We're not experiencing any acceleration or gravity changes. The ship is rotating, but we can't feel it. Dr. Marcus Lee aboard the UES Defiance smiled as he watched the Vorthak fleet trying to understand what was happening to them. The gravity manipulation system was working perfectly. By creating localized distortions in spacetime, he could twist and bend reality around enemy ships without affecting the crews inside. Admiral Rodriguez, he reported. The demonstration is complete. All Vorthak vessels are now experiencing disorientation. They're discovering that their weapons can't lock onto targets when up and down keep changing. Rodriguez nodded. Excellent. Commander Davis, transmit our final warning. Commander Rick Davis was the weapons officer aboard the UES Retribution. He had been an artillery specialist in the Army before joining the secret space program. Now he controlled weapons that could reshape reality itself. Attention, Vorthak fleet, Davis broadcast. You now have 5 minutes to begin withdrawal. If you do not comply, we will demonstrate why attacking peaceful civilizations is a bad idea. Admiral Kethvar tried to respond, but his ship's communication system was malfunctioning. In fact, all of his ship's systems were behaving strangely. Weapons wouldn't target properly, sensors showed contradictory readings, and his crew was becoming increasingly panicked. Sir, what are our orders? Asked his second-in-command. Kethvar looked at the display showing the human ships. There were now 6 of them, all identical, all apparently real. His fleet of over 200 vessels was being toyed with by an enemy that shouldn't even exist. All ships. Attack formation Destroyer 7. Focus all firepower on the human vessels. Sir, which ones? There are now 12 showing on sensors. Kethvar looked at the display. The human ships had multiplied again, and now there seemed to be one for each ship in his fleet. Worse, they were no longer staying at a safe distance. They were moving through his formation, weaving between his dreadnoughts like they were dancing. Fire at will. Destroy them all. The Vorthak fleet erupted in a frenzy of weapons fire. Plasma bolts, missile volleys, and energy beams filled space as over 200. Ships tried to hit targets that seemed to exist in multiple places at once. It was then that the humans showed their true capabilities. The UES Retribution materialized inside the Vorthak formation, directly between 2 dreadnoughts. Before the Vorthak could react, the human ship fired a single weapon. The effect was instantaneous and horrifying. The space around one of the dreadnoughts began to collapse inward, creating a localized black hole that consumed the massive ship in seconds. The gravitational distortion was so intense that nearby Vorthak vessels were pulled toward it, their hulls beginning to stretch and deform. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the black hole vanished. The dreadnought was simply gone, leaving no debris, no energy signature, nothing. It was as if the ship had never existed. Commander Davis transmitted one final message to the Vorthak fleet. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal. After that, we stopped being polite. Admiral Kethvar stared at the empty space where one of his most powerful ships had been moments before. In 50 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like it. The humans hadn't just destroyed the ship, they had erased it from existence. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Kethvar felt fear. Admiral Kethvar's hands trembled as he gripped the command console. In 50 years of conquest, he had never encountered an enemy like this. The humans weren't just winning. They were making his entire fleet look like children playing with toys. Status report. He barked at his crew. Sir, the fleet is in complete disarray, his tactical officer reported. 17 ships are reporting system malfunctions. The gravity distortions are affecting our navigation. And sir, the humans are inside our formation. Kethvar looked at the tactical display and felt his blood turn cold. The 12 human ships had somehow multiplied into dozens, maybe hundreds. They were appearing and disappearing throughout his fleet, materializing inside his defensive formations, then vanishing before his weapons could target them. How are they doing this? Unknown, sir. Our sensors can't track them properly. They seem to be phasing in and out of normal space. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Admiral Rodriguez watched the chaos with satisfaction. The phase shift generators were working perfectly, allowing her ships to become intangible and move through solid matter at will. To the Vorthak, it looked like the human fleet was everywhere at once. Dr. Lee, what's the status of their fleet? Complete confusion, Admiral, the scientist replied with a grin. The gravity manipulation systems are scrambling their sensors and navigation. They can't tell which way is up anymore. Several of their ships are accidentally targeting each other. Excellent. Colonel Brooks, are your Marines ready? Colonel Amy Brooks stood at the teleportation platform, wearing armor that looked more like a mechanical exoskeleton than traditional combat gear. Behind her, 4 other Marines waited in similar suits. Each soldier was enhanced with genetic modifications and cybernetic implants that made them faster and stronger than any natural creature. Ready for boarding action, Admiral. Which ship do you want us to take? The flagship. Let's have a conversation with their commander. Brooks nodded and stepped onto the teleportation pad. The device hummed with energy, analyzing the quantum signature of the Vorthak flagship. Within seconds, the coordinates were locked in. Transport in 3, 2, 1. The 5 human Marines vanished in a flash of light. They reappeared in the corridor of Admiral Kethvar's flagship, their armor automatically adjusting to the alien atmosphere. The Vorthak ship was dimly lit and smelled of sulfur and rotting meat. Warning klaxons were blaring throughout the vessel. Readings? Brooks asked through her helmet communicator. Ship layout downloaded, reported Sergeant Tony Richards. Command deck is 6 levels up. Heavy resistance expected. Then let's not keep them waiting. The Marines moved through the ship with deadly efficiency. Their enhanced reflexes allowed them to react faster than any biological creature, while their armor protected them from weapons that could punch through starship hulls. The first group of Vorthak guards they encountered never had a chance. The aliens were 12 feet tall and heavily armored, but they moved like they were underwater compared to the enhanced humans. Brooks and her team cut through them in seconds, their quantum weapons slicing through Vorthak armor like it was made of paper. Contact front, Richards reported as they reached a major intersection. Looks like 20, maybe 30 hostiles. Copy that. Use non-lethal force if possible. We want prisoners for intelligence. The Marines opened fire with weapons that didn't kill. They simply turned off the electrical systems in alien nervous systems, causing instant unconsciousness. Dozens of Vorthak soldiers collapsed without even understanding what had hit them. Lieutenant Sam Turner, the team's technical specialist, plugged into the ship's computer system while the others secured the area. Admiral, I'm accessing their databases now. Holy shit. Sorry, ma'am. These guys have destroyed 43 entire star systems. Billions of casualties. Any weaknesses in their technology? Plenty. Their ships are powerful but crude. No defensive systems beyond basic shields and armor. No adaptive capabilities. They rely entirely on brute force. Turner paused as more data scrolled across his helmet display. Admiral, you need to see this. They have detailed plans for attacking dozens more systems, including... Oh no. What is it, Lieutenant? Sol system is on their target list. They were planning to attack Earth after finishing with this sector. The blood drained from Colonel Brooks's face. The Vorthak had been planning to attack humanity's home. Every human on Earth would have been killed or enslaved. Change of plans, she said grimly. We're taking this ship intact. The Admiral will want to interrogate their commander personally. The Marines continued their advance toward the bridge, leaving a trail of unconscious Vorthak soldiers behind them. Their armor's stealth systems made them nearly invisible, while their enhanced hearing allowed them to detect enemies before being detected themselves. Meanwhile, in space around them, the human fleet was demonstrating capabilities that defied everything the Vorthak thought they knew about warfare. Captain Laura White, commanding the UES Vengeance, had just performed an impossible maneuver. Her ship had materialized inside a Vorthak dreadnought, fired a weapon that froze the enemy crew in time, then teleported the entire alien vessel to a different location in the system. Target secure, White reported. The crew is experiencing temporal distortion. They're moving about 1 second for every hour of real time. We can interrogate them at our leisure. Dr. Rachel Kim aboard the UES Phoenix was conducting her own experiments. Using quantum field manipulation, she had trapped 3 Vorthak ships in pocket dimensions where the laws of physics worked differently. In one pocket, gravity flowed upward. In another, cause and effect were reversed. The alien crews were experiencing things that would drive them insane if they weren't rescued soon. This is fascinating, Dr. Kim reported to Admiral Rodriguez. Their technology has no defense against quantum manipulation. We can literally rewrite the rules of reality around them. Admiral Kethvar was beginning to understand that his fleet was facing something completely beyond their experience. The humans weren't just using superior technology. They were using science that the Vorthak couldn't even comprehend. Sir, we're receiving reports from all ships. His communications officer said, "The humans are. They're not fighting like any species we've encountered before." "What do you mean?" "Sir, they're not trying to destroy us. They're studying us. They're capturing our ships intact, interrogating our crews, downloading our databases. It's like we're specimens in a laboratory." The comparison made Kethvar's skin crawl. The Vorthak were used to being the predators, the ones who decided whether other species lived or died. Now they were the prey being examined by creatures they had dismissed as primitive. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet commander." "Put it through." Admiral Rodriguez's voice filled the bridge, calm and professional. "Admiral Kethvar, this is Admiral Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is completely neutralized. Your ships are captured, disabled, or under our control. I'm prepared to offer terms for surrender." "Terms?" Kethvar snarled. "The Vorthak Empire does not surrender. Admiral, let me be clear about your situation. My Marines are currently aboard your flagship. Your engines are disabled. Your weapons are offline. Your crew is experiencing gravitational effects that will kill them if not corrected soon. You have no options left." As if to prove her point, the artificial gravity on Kethvar's ship suddenly reversed, sending several crew members floating toward the ceiling. Then it returned to normal, dropping them back to the deck. "The question," Rodriguez continued, "is whether you want your crews to survive this encounter, cooperate with us and they live, continue to resist and, well, you've seen what our weapons can do." Kethvar looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at him with fear in their eyes. These aliens, these humans, were demonstrating power beyond anything in Vorthak experience. They could manipulate gravity, time, space itself. They could make his ships disappear, freeze his crews in temporal fields, or simply erase them from existence. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Kethvar was forced to consider surrender. What are your terms?" "Complete withdrawal from this system. Immediate cessation of all attacks on peaceful civilizations, and full cooperation with our intelligence-gathering efforts. And if we refuse?" Rodriguez's voice turned cold. "Then we demonstrate why the galaxy should fear what comes from Earth." Admiral Kethvar sat in a specially designed chair aboard the UES Defiance, his massive frame dwarfing the human furniture around him. His scales had lost their black luster, and his eyes held the hollow look of a warrior who had discovered he was nothing more than a child playing with toys. Admiral Rodriguez sat across from him, calm and composed. Between them, a holographic display showed the current status of both fleets. The Vorthak ships floated dead in space, their crews alive but completely helpless. The human vessels moved among them like shepherds tending to very dangerous sheep. "Your empire has been conquering civilizations for over 2 centuries, Rodriguez said, reviewing the data they had extracted from Vorthak databases. 43 star systems. Billions of casualties, all in the name of expansion. Kethvar said nothing. What could he say? The humans had spent less than 4 hours completely neutralizing a fleet that had terrorized half the galaxy. They hadn't just defeated the Vorthak. They had made them irrelevant. The interesting part, Rodriguez continued, is how you chose your targets. Always peaceful species. Never anyone who could fight back effectively. You're not warriors, Admiral. You're bullies. We are conquerors, Kethvar said weakly. It is our way, was your way. That ends today. Dr. Marcus Lee entered the room carrying a tablet filled with analysis data. Admiral, we've completed our examination of their technology. It's disappointing. Elaborate. Their ships are big and heavily armed, but they're technologically primitive. No adaptive systems, no defensive countermeasures beyond basic shields. No innovation in their weapon design for decades. They've been winning through brute force alone. Rodriguez nodded. It explained everything. The Vorthak had never needed to evolve their tactics because they only attacked civilizations that couldn't fight back effectively. When they finally encountered an enemy that could adapt and innovate, they were completely outclassed. What's the status of the Zalari planet? Dr. Martinez and the relief team are already on the surface, Lee reported. Medical aid is being distributed, and Engineer Thompson is helping rebuild their damaged infrastructure. The Zalari are overwhelmed by our assistance, Rodriguez could imagine. The aliens had gone from facing extinction to being rescued by a species they thought was primitive. It would take time for them to process what had happened. Admiral, Kethvar spoke for the first time in an hour. What will you do with my fleet? That depends on you, Admiral. Your crews will be returned to Vorthak space with a message for your government. The message is simple. The age of easy conquest is over. Any attempt to attack peaceful civilizations will result in Earth's direct intervention. And what makes you think Earth can monitor the entire galaxy? Rodriguez smiled, and Kethvar felt a chill run down his spine. There was something in that smile that suggested humanity had been keeping more secrets than just their military capabilities. Admiral, let me share something with you. Earth has been aware of galactic civilization for much longer than you think. We've been watching, learning, preparing. The Zalari distress call wasn't the first time we've encountered alien signals. It was just the first time we decided to respond publicly. The implications hit Kethvar like a physical blow. If Earth had been monitoring galactic communications for years, they knew about every Vorthok conquest, every destroyed civilization, every act of cruelty his empire had committed. How long have you been watching? Long enough to compile detailed files on every major power in this part of the galaxy, including complete tactical assessments and contingency plans. Dr. Lee pulled up another holographic display. We've been particularly interested in aggressive species like yours. We've developed specific countermeasures for Vorthak tactics, weapon systems, and strategic doctrines. Today's battle wasn't improvisation, Admiral. It was a carefully planned field test. Kethvar stared at the data scrolling past. Ship movements, weapons tests, tactical analyses. The humans had been preparing to fight the Vorthak Empire for years, possibly decades. His species had been studied like laboratory specimens. Your crews will be released at the edge of Vorthak space, Rodriguez continued. They'll carry our terms to your government. Complete cessation of aggressive expansion, reparations to surviving populations of conquered worlds, and cooperation with a new galactic peacekeeping initiative. Peacekeeping initiative? Earth is assuming responsibility for protecting peaceful civilizations from species like yours. Consider it our contribution to galactic stability. The door opened and Colonel Brooks entered, still wearing her combat armor. Behind her came Elder Zix 477. The Zalari leader who had sent the original distress call. The blue-skinned alien looked tiny next to the human colonel, but his large black eyes were filled with wonder and gratitude. He approached Rodriguez and performed what appeared to be a formal bow. Admiral Rodriguez, on behalf of the Zalari Confederation, I offer our eternal gratitude. You saved our entire species from extinction. You're welcome, Elder. How are your people? Confused, amazed, and alive. Your medical teams are treating the wounded with technology we don't understand. Your engineers are rebuilding our cities using methods that seem like magic to us, and your diplomats are helping us contact other species in the region to warn them about the Vorthak threat. Zix 477 turned to look at Admiral Kethvar, and his expression hardened. Admiral, for 200 years your empire has brought nothing but death and suffering to the galaxy. Today you learned that there are consequences for such actions. The Vorthak Empire will not forget this humiliation, Kethvar said. Though his voice lacked conviction, Colonel Brooks laughed, a sound that made the alien admiral flinch. Humiliation? Admiral, we haven't humiliated you. We've educated you. Today you learned that the galaxy has new rules. Rodriguez stood up, indicating that the meeting was over. Your ships will be released in 1 hour. You have 12 hours to leave this system. Any Vorthak vessel that returns here will be treated as hostile. And if we choose to attack Earth in retaliation? The humans in the room exchanged glances, and Kethvar realized he had just asked the wrong question. Dr. Lee pulled up a new display showing Earth's solar system. Admiral, what you see here are our defensive installations around Earth. Notice anything interesting? Kethvar studied the display and felt his blood freeze. The solar system was filled with structures that dwarfed anything he had ever seen. Battle stations the size of moons, weapon platforms that could destroy entire fleets, and in the asteroid belt, something that looked like it was under construction, something massive enough to be visible from several astronomical units away. Earth is not defenseless. Admiral, Rodriguez said quietly, what you faced today was a small expeditionary force. If you attack our home system, you'll discover what happens when humanity stops being polite. Dr. Lee smiled pleasantly. The technical term is stellar engineering, Admiral. We've been rebuilding our entire solar system as a fortress. The structure in the asteroid belt will be completed next year. When it's finished, we'll be able to move our entire star system if necessary. Kethvar could barely speak. You can move stars? Admiral, you've been thinking too small. Your empire conquers planets. We rebuild solar systems. Your species thinks in terms of centuries. We plan for millennia. You want to know why you lost today? It's because you never understood what you were facing. Admiral Rodriguez gestured to the guards. Escort Admiral Kethvar back to his ship. Make sure he receives copies of all our terms and conditions. As the alien commander was led away, Elder Zix 477 approached the human admiral. What happens now? The Zalari asked. Now, Elder, the galaxy learns that peaceful species are no longer defenseless. We're establishing monitoring stations throughout this region. Any aggressive action against civilian populations will result in immediate intervention. And the Vorthak? They'll adapt or they'll be removed. Evolution applies to civilizations as well as individuals. 6 months later, the galaxy was very different. The Vorthak Empire had withdrawn to their core systems and ceased all expansion activities. Several other aggressive species had voluntarily modified their behavior after learning about humanity's intervention in the Zalari system. Earth had established its first official embassy on the Zalari homeworld, staffed by diplomats who spoke 20 different alien languages and carried weapons that could reshape reality. Humanity's message to the galaxy was clear. Peaceful coexistence would be protected and enforced. Admiral Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the Earth Embassy, looking up at the alien stars. Her communication device chimed with an incoming message from Admiral Kate Rodriguez, her sister who commanded the lunar defense stations. Kate, how are things at home? Busy. We're getting delegation requests from over 40 different species. Apparently everyone wants to establish formal relations with the species that defeated the Vorthak in 4 hours. And the Vorthak themselves? Complete compliance with our terms. They're actually paying reparations to their former victims. Turns out, when you remove the threat of retaliation, even the most aggressive species can become surprisingly cooperative. Rodriguez smiled. Good. What's the status of the new monitoring network? Installation is ahead of schedule. Within a year, we'll have real-time